It is the ultimate paradox that from the bowels of the earth, such destruction and violence is truly the beginning and renewal of life. Perhaps our grandchildren or our grandchildren's grandchildren will be witness to the very real battle of fire and water when Loihi surfaces from the hot spot 40 miles beneath the Pacific to become the next island in the 2,000-mile chain. This process is exciting and new. Scientists' predictions for the emergence of Loihi above the sea vary from 100 to 10,000 years. For now, we remain in awe of the power and bizarre beauty of this, the newest land on Earth. How long will it be until these islands are once again swallowed up by the sea? Perhaps this ancient Polynesian phrase says it best. Stones rot, only the chant remains.
Put me in the freezer. I'll keep ice cubes smelling fresh. Arm & Hammer baking soda.
One in the fridge.
And one in the freezer.
It's a side of Hawaii most people never think about. The traffic jams, pollution, and overdevelopment. Could it be trouble in paradise for our 50th state? Then, ride the waves with the best in the world. Join us in Maui for the Windsurfing Grand Prix. It's all part of our encore presentation of Hawaii Turns 30. Tonight at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Only on the Discovery Channel. Be here. Aloha.
This week, a surveillance device worthy of James Bond. The latest fashion wear for oil rigs. And sailing ships get a second wind.
Hello again, and welcome to Beyond 2000. Later in the program, rating your radioactivity. From Brazil, a tale of once bitten, twice shy. But first, Chris Ardle Guinness meets one of the automotive dream merchants, Nuccio Bertoni.
Italy has a tradition of talented coach builders, stylists that can repeatedly drape quite ordinary mechanical running gear with fantastic mouldings, shapes that plumb the psyche of the car-buying public, evocative contours that suddenly make a car more desirable, more collectible. There are some great exponents of this automotive sorcery: Scaletti, Pininfarina, Ghia, Leggera, and the designer of this car, Bertoni. This is the Ramaro, Italian for green lizard. Underneath is the engine and chassis of the Chevrolet Corvette. The object of this design exercise was to take a car that's already a runaway success in the United States and subtly change the recipe so that it becomes irresistible. The Bertoni shape is more linear and taut than its muscular forebear. Inside, it's wider and roomier, largely because the automatic stick shift is now flush-mounted on the dash console. There are a number of other departures from the expected in this package. For example, the radiator has been moved from the front to the rear. That immediately makes the car 33 centimetres shorter, but it also gives the car better road holding. Now, the 5.4 litre motor is cooled by the aerodynamic downdraft that sweeps over the bonnet and hood and into a thermostatically controlled ventilator hatch. Like the 58 other prototypes that went before it, this car possibly could become a fully fledged production line model. But if history's any guide, elements like the ventilator hatch will be incorporated in other cars that you and I will drive over the next 2 decades. The double-acting sliding doors that simultaneously open laterally and slide forward are another interesting feature of the prototype. Typically, 2-door coupes have quite large doors that are difficult to open without trauma in tight parking lots. The Romaro has a robust sliding mechanism incorporated into the profile of the car, which is then underscored by painting in 3 shades of green. It's radical departures like these that have set the Bertone coach building company apart. Originally begun in 1912 by Giovanni Bertone, the company has designed some truly influential vehicles. Conceptual work for current designs takes place in this inspirational valley about 30 kilometres from Turin in northern Italy. One of the craggy mountain peaks is topped by a 2,000-year-old monastery. For a car enthusiast, approaching the Bertone design studio is something of an act of reverence. Here then is a tabernacle to the automobile. Its objects of worship, the prototypes, are housed beneath the building in the basement. We were fortunate enough to glimpse a few of the Bertone icons, wheeled out into the sun for us to film. Among them, the powerful V12 mid-engined Lamborghini Miura, designed back in 1967. The striking gull-winged Lamborghini Mazal, and the Lancia Stratos, the car which won the World Rally Championship 3 times. They're all hybrid exotics, and a couple have enjoyed modest production runs. But there's no doubting their overall influence on the motoring world. The evolution of a prototype of any consequence takes these draftsmen sometimes thousands of hours. And since even large companies have discovered that it's very difficult indeed to come up with exotic cars by committee, just about all the major decisions on style and performance, in fact the entire direction of this company, is made by just one man, Nuccio Bertone. Nuccio is now in his early 70s, but he shows no signs of relinquishing the reins. He works daily with a small and trusted cadre of designers and craftsmen who interpret his wishes. The hallmark of the company has been the evolution of dream cars that not only look exciting, but are drivable and functional. The ex-road racer with a degree in accountancy is, after all, a pragmatist. But what of Bertone's thoughts of the future? What type of cars will be parked in front of his design studio by the year 2000?
Talking with eminent figures of the mechanical world, we know that the internal combustion engine has still got a very long future. Therefore, it is not in the program to do something transcendental as far as the car propulsion is concerned. I would also say that the restrictive car regulations should not worry us too much. Both the regulations and the mechanical requirements do not represent something that will stop the fantasy of the designer. But as a result, a designer is twice as good if they are capable of producing something better. And this is always part of the challenge. It is a kind of competition between these obstacles and the designer.
Some of Nuccio Bertone's concepts for the future are already here. like this car, which we parked for a few minutes in a busy Turin piazza. It didn't take long for an admiring crowd to gather. The Zabrus embodies high performance and spaciousness, Citroen's adjustable suspension, and Lamborghini Countach style lift-up doors.
Sleek, isn't it? Well, these embossed leather seats are not just for show. They're orthopedically designed to start with. They swivel sideways so that the passenger doesn't have to slip a disc to get into the back seat. And of course, it makes it easier for the driver to get in. But also they have another purpose. There's an infrared sensor here and at the back, and that raises and lowers the seat so that you get the optimum driving position. And I can feel it just slowly going up now. Inside there's a twist to the compact disc system. There's one for hi-fi, and there's one that has the map of Turin encoded inside it. And Italian traffic being what it is, I guess you need all the help you can get. But ultimately, like all Bertone vehicles, this car is meant for driving.
The Zabrus is a GT coupe with sparkling performance from a turbocharged power plant. But it is, at the same time, a touring car with ample room for 4 passengers. This is Bertone's concept for a family car of the 1990s, a period that will bring with it increased motoring costs, more superhighways, more congestion, stricter safety standards, and emission controls. But hopefully automobiles, perhaps our most cherished cultural artifacts, will not be relegated entirely to dullness and blandness. There'll always be a designer like Bertone who can interpret those rather mundane and rational imperatives with style, romance, and fantasy.
Coming next, the robot spy in the sky.
Warm wishes for a happy Hanukkah from the Discovery Channel.
Them lemons they roll, them lemons they bounce. I even seen a lemon drop. Them lemons smell so fresh and pretty, like lemon fresh Clorox. Them lemons smell so fresh and pretty, lemon fresh Clorox bleach.
What happens when you add Clorox bleach to soft scrub cleanser? The label turns green, and stains come clean. Get soft scrub with the stain-fighting power of bleach.
The facts speak for themselves. From personal to advanced full color, America's most popular copier is Canon. Call toll-free 1-800-OK-CANON.
Our dentist gave us the word about healthier teeth and gums.
Baking soda. So we tried Arm & Hammer Dental Care, the baking soda toothpaste with fluoride.
A survey shows 2 out of 3 dentists and hygienists recommend baking soda for healthier teeth and gums.
My mouth feels minty fresh.
And clean.
Arm & Hammer Dental Care for healthier teeth and gums.
Put me in the freezer. I'll keep ice cubes smelling fresh. Arm & Hammer baking soda. 1 in the fridge and 1 in the freezer.
You never know what to expect from adopted children. This one became president. And these adopted kids skated to the Olympics. And this one went far in education. And this adopted kid dove into world fame. Adopted children are just like other kids. They're kids with great expectations.
This New Year's Eve, go around the world with the Discovery Channel. Experience the color, the excitement, the vitality of festivals from Spain to Tahiti. A whirlwind tour of the best dancing, the wildest costumes, and the most outrageous traditions. Join us for a non-stop party. Beginning at 8 Eastern, New Year's Eve on Discovery Sunday.
A Land Rover arrives at an airfield in England carrying a rather unusual flying machine. It looks perhaps like a model helicopter, except that there's no tail rotor. But this is no toy. Weighing in at 36 kilograms, it's light enough to be carried by 2 men. Its name is the Sprite. That's an acronym of surveillance, patrol, intelligence gathering, target designation, and electronic warfare. Putting that into simpler terms, it's a cheap way of getting a bird's eye view. This little helicopter doesn't have a tail rotor, but even so, it's an extraordinarily stable platform for whatever you want to mount on it. Sensors, chemical sniffers, or in this case, a small television camera. The camera is mounted in a completely detachable module, so you can take that out and install anything else in its place. The reason it's so stable is because it has contra-rotating propellers. The power is provided by 2 6-brake horsepower converted chainsaw motors running on, would you believe it, lawnmower fuel, 2-stroke. Down here there's a laser altimeter which sets the altitude that the helicopter flies at. All in all, it's a cheap, not very visible spy in the sky.
There are quite a few different types of sensors that you can carry on Sprite. TV, black and white, color TV, thermal imager, ability to see at night, things like that. Quite apart from chemical sensors, there are some uses where you need to monitor the atmosphere, either around a suspect power station, for instance, or in the military case, they might be interested in nuclear and chemical warfare type of surveillance. We've even had people interested in crop spraying, would you believe, for such a small vehicle as this.
Is that feasible, do you think?
Some crop spraying chemicals are so expensive they cost about the equivalent of Chanel No. 5, and you have to put them down precisely on the rows of crops. Well, Sprite is able to fly along one row, back along the other row. Grassland people who are looking for centers of disease, for instance, in grassland or in forestry, game preserves, herd monitoring and things like that.
Conventional helicopters are very sensitive to horizontal gusts. Not so the Sprite. Also, because it accelerates only half a G on takeoff and landing, the sensors on board get a good ride. Back at the Land Rover, the operator and observer sit at a console with TV monitors. The joystick controls the speed and direction of the craft, while the antenna mounted on the roof of the vehicle receives the television pictures. Usually the operators don't tend to let it get out of their sight, but it's so small that at a distance of 1 kilometre it's virtually invisible when it's hovering, especially when there are trees or buildings in the background. The Sprite's 2 engines are always only operating at half power. If one engine fails, the other engine automatically goes up to full power, and the Sprite can still fly satisfactorily. This little robot has now reached an advanced stage of development, and the manufacturers, ML Aviation, say it could be used for everything from geophysical surveys to game park supervision. In the future, keeping an eye on things is going to be a lot cheaper, thanks to the Sprite.
She's thought to be the 5th largest ship in the world, a massive 350,000-ton carrier. And she's sat here on the Southampton docks for more than 2 years at a cost of around $1,500 a day. This ship is a victim of the oil crisis which the world seems to have forgotten about. She's also a victim of her own bulk, with fuel costs representing more than 60% of the cost of running such a vessel. Surely there's got to be a cheaper way of plying the ocean waves, you might ask. Well, a Southampton company thinks so, and it thinks it's found a way of reducing the fuel cost of a vessel like this by as much as 15 or 20%. Working out of a yard of abandoned factories and warehouses, Walker Wingsail have for the past 4 years fought a battle to survive long enough to get out their first prototype wingsail. And just a short time before I arrived, they'd succeeded. This is the first Walker Wingsail to come off the production line. And if you're still not sure what it is, then turn your head sideways and think of it as a series of aircraft wings set on their side. But instead of giving an aircraft vertical lift, they give a ship horizontal thrust. But it's not really that simple, as the man who developed the wingsail explains.
Well, we've got to be able to make port tack and starboard tack. We've got to be able to deflect a set of flaps like that to do the same job as the bellying of a cloth sail, really, deflecting the wind in that way. And for the opposite tack of sailing, we've got to be able to do that, and that's deflecting the wind in that way. So that's the basic configuration of the sail.
And what role does this piece here have?
Now, that's in charge. That's the tail. The whole assembly is mounted on a free rotation bearing, and it flies to the wind using the tail in the same way that you have a weather vane on a church steeple.
John is a former aeronautics engineer with British Aerospace. He first designed the concept of the wingsail more than 15 years ago, and he put it on a neat little hydrofoil which he also designed. A sleek, aerodynamic speed craft that totally turns sideways the notion of sailing. This is the Flyer. The Flyer is Walker's research vessel. Unlike a set of sails and ropes that flex and stretch or fall limp in the wind and change virtually every second, the wingsail is a rigid structure and will react in a known way because its shape won't change. When mounted on the large cargo vessel, the wingsails will be computer controlled, with the sensors feeding information in about wind speed and direction, and the computers switching on and off hydraulic pumps that move the wingsail. That's an important economic point, as no extra hands will be needed to run the ship. Solid sails have also been discovered by the Japanese. Their fleet of rigid-sailed cargo vessels has grown to 5 in just 4 years, and more are planned. Indeed, it seems certain this new generation of cargo-carrying sailing ships will once again ply the ocean waves.
It's interesting that a new ship fitted with these can have a smaller engine and actually cost less than a conventional modern ship to buy.
Well, good luck, John. I really hope it takes off.
Thank you very much.
Coming next, a story that will make your flesh crawl.
Here's wonderful news for anyone who's ever cleaned a kettle or saved a leftover. As American as the microwave, the Food Locker vacuum sealer belongs in every kitchen. Save hundreds of dollars on frozen processed foods, plus take advantage of bulk food prices and save more. First, create a perfect size pouch. Now fill, then push this button, and contents are vacuum sealed airtight, making it freezable, boilable, or even microwavable. Using the Food Locker means no freezer burn. Prepare microwavable meals in advance, freeze, then breeze through a week of piping hot home cooking without ever using a pan. Save a whole season of harvest. Pack a lunch. The Food Locker vacuum sealer is a very affordable $39.95. Call toll-free now. To order your Food Locker vacuum sealer, call 1-800-348-7800. Use your credit card to avoid COD charges, or send check or money order for $39.95 plus $5 shipping and handling to the Food Locker, Department 6, Canton, Ohio, or call 1-800-348-7800.
They're quintessentially American, coveted throughout the world, the indestructible blue jean. Follow its history on the next American album. Friday at 9 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
I love the nights.
I love the sights. I love shopping.
All day.
I just love the shows on Broadway.
More people love New York because New York has more to love.
I love to play ball.
I just love it all.
Call now for your free vacation kit. I love New York.
A new Lincoln Town Car for the 1990s has arrived. Dramatically different. A powerful V8 and more room than any other luxury car.
Your Lincoln Town Car, sir.
Lincoln, now more than ever, what a luxury car should be.
From the many faces of paradise to Maui's Valley Isle of Romance, the celebration continues as Hawaii turns 30. Friday at 10 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. Aloha.
This is Sao Paulo. With a population of around 14 million, not only is it the biggest city in Brazil, it's one of the biggest cities in the world. It's incredibly crowded and busy. And yet, in one of the inner suburbs, about 9 kilometers or 5 miles from the center, there's a 700-acre property of parklands and old colonial buildings, which seems strangely out of place. It's the world-renowned Bhutanta Institute for Research into Venomous Animals. It was established in 1901, and it now houses the world's largest collection of snakes, as well as thousands of different spiders and scorpions, from which they extract venom. They also produce millions of doses of serum and vaccines each year, as well as most of Brazil's immunotherapeutic products, which are used against typhoid, tetanus, whooping cough, rabies, and other diseases.
A wide variety of poisonous snakes, some 2,000 of them, are regularly milked of their venom in the Institute's vivariums. When sufficient quantity is collected, the venom is used in a complicated process to produce antivenines for bites not only from the type of snake it's extracted from, but from several other species. Spiders, too, occupy a considerable amount of the Institute's time. These small Loxosceles spiders are deadly, although you would hardly guess it from the casual way they're handled during the milking procedure. The legs are folded back so they can be held between the fingers. Then its head is placed on 2 contacts and is given an electrical jolt which forces it to eject its venom into the glass pipette. Unfortunately for the spider, the shock also kills it. The venom ejected is only a couple of tiny drops from each spider, but it all adds up. A similar process is used with scorpions, which are kept in large containers, living in groups under bark, leaves, and rooftops.